The core method, the tool for creating deeper connections. In this week's revealing episode of Entrepreneurship is a Marathon, we feature a special guest, Tony Martignetti, a renowned leadership coach and one of the biggest voices in leadership according to Thinkers 360 and LeadersHum in 2023. Join us on this episode as we delve into Tony's powerful core method, CORE, and explore how it can help you establish genuine connections and express your true self effectively. Tune in for valuable insights, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will enable you to forge meaningful relationships and unleash your authentic potential. Get ready to transform the way that you connect with others and create profound impacts in both your personal and your professional business life. We have a lot in store for you today, so stay tuned.
Welcome to Entrepreneurship is a Marathon, a podcast about how you can grow a profit-producing, purpose-driven business without burnout. We don't need more people starting businesses. We need more people continuing. Each week, we'll deliver the latest and greatest tips, tricks, and strategies for you to revive, grow, and scale your business. Now, here's your host, consultant, professor, and the business defibrillator, Vanessa Zammi.
And I am joined today by our guest, Tony Martignetti. And I always wonder, can guests see me dance in the background while this intro is playing? I just love this beat. Okay, but with that being said, Tony Martignetti, our special guest, is here with us today. We'll be going into his core method, CORE, the tool for you to create deeper connections with the people around you. Before we dive deep into our topics, though, for those who've been following us for a while, you already know. For those who are new, you're about to know. We go into what has been your win of the week. What has been your win of the week? And the reason why we do this is because entrepreneurship is a marathon, as this podcast is called. And it's very easy to focus on the lows of the marathon. Very easy to just focus on the lows. But sometimes, many times, there are some highs. There are some wins, right? There are some things that you can celebrate. It could be personal. It could be business, whatever it may be. But this is the time for you to acknowledge that you have won in some way in the last 7 days. So what has been your win of the week? We'll start with our guest, Tony. What's been your win of the week?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. And I will share my win in a moment. But I think the first starting win is just having that intro. That is an amazing intro. I got all excited. I think I was dancing too here. So that's a win. I would say my win of the week, I just recently was asked to join the Council of Design Museum Everywhere, which is a nonprofit that is all about social impact through design and arts. And I'm excited about it because this is something that I am really passionate about, art and design. Although people think like, man, this is a person who's in business and doing, coaching and what have you. But to me, at the core of everything is this real creative soul who really wants to make sure that I'm able to make an impact through that aspect of who I am. So that's a win.
I love that. And congrats to you for getting that going. Congrats to you. Actually, right before this episode, I was actually just taking pictures of my keyboard. So that's actually funny. But speaking of art and music and creativity, but what has been, for those who are listening, for those who are watching, what has been your win of the week? If you're watching us on YouTube, scroll to the bottom, hit subscribe, and then scroll to the comments, and then type in what's been your win of the week. If you're watching us on LinkedIn, then hit us to the right, okay? And type in what has been your win of the week. If you're listening to us on the podcast, whether you're in your bed or in your car, just think to yourself, what has been your win of the week? We're going to focus on the road too at the same time, but also think to yourself, what has been your win of the week? Okay. I'm going to go into my win, and then we'll be going and sharing Tony's amazing bio, and then getting down to the core method, the tool for you to create deeper connections. Okay, what has been my win of the week? I'm gonna take it personal this week. I'm taking it personal. So my mother has gotten married at the age of 60. This is her first marriage. Talk about someone who's been wanting marriage since forever. Okay, and as a daughter, I'm just happy to see her happy. It's like you see someone throughout their life just struggle, and now she's able to be happy with her other person, and So I got the insights from my sister, who's still she moved in with them. She's in college, etc. We're years apart. But point being is that apparently he comes home and he stays up for her before going to bed. And she's a nurse, so she comes home late, right? Like midnight, right? But he stays up. And I was like, oh my God, That is so sweet, folks. That is so sweet. Okay. So I just want to share that win. I think it's a great win to see people, just see my mother just happy. So I appreciate that. Just being able to be a part of that experience. I walked her down the aisle, it was a whole thing. The point being, but that is talking about deeper connections. I definitely developed a deeper connection for family over the last couple of years. And now we're going to talk about the core method, Tony's tool for you to create deeper connections with not only family, but with clients, customers, peers, investors, sales, all the people. All right, your team, your staff, etc. Okay. Now, who is Tony Martignetti? Tony Martignetti is a trusted advisor, leadership coach, and facilitator, best-selling author, podcast host, and speaker. Yes, that's why we invited him here today, all right? Because he brings together over 25 years of business and leadership experience and extreme curiosity to elevate leaders and equip them with the tools to navigate through change and unlock their true potential. Alrighty. Tony hosts the Virtual Campfire podcast, so you can go check out that podcast as well. And is also the author of Climbing the Right Mountain, Navigating the Journey to an Inspired Life, and the co-author of Secrets of Next Level Entrepreneurs. He has been featured in many publications, including Fast Company, Forbes, Life Science Leader, and CEO Today. And we are so happy to have him here. First of all, Tony, again, congratulations on your board for Is a Design Everywhere. And also congratulations on being recognized as one of the top 10 leadership coaches and one of the biggest voices in leadership in 2023. Can you tell us more about your journey and how you developed the core method, CORE?
Thank you so much, first of all. And I'm very humble. I'm not really someone who goes after these accolades. I just show up and serve and do the work. And it really comes from this place of really finding what I was meant for. My journey to getting to where I am, I'll give you the short story because I don't want to go into too much depth for the audience. I don't want to bore them, but my journey to getting to where I am is one of, being on the wrong path for many years, or at least the seemingly wrong path. I was working in biotech biotech and high tech for about 25 years. And in that time, I had an amazing impact. I was doing great work, but ultimately it wasn't me. It wasn't who I really was. I often say that I put myself in this box of thinking that I was a finance professional, finance and strategy executive working in these fields. But ultimately people would say to me, "You're not the typical XYZ." And I'm like, well, I guess that's a good thing. But I think what they were trying to get at is that I was meant for something different. And luckily I started to listen and I started to think beyond the box of that I was putting myself in, and decided to leave the corporate world and to leap out into the great unknown of becoming a coach and a leadership development professional. And for me, that was really scary because I did not have a plan. I just kind of left and created all this stuff from scratch. And I'm glad I did, because I had to do some discovery work of my own to figure out who I really was, what I was really meant for. And in that process, I also, was able to develop a lot of the things that I help other people with. So that's kind of what brought me to where I'm doing now. I work a lot with, founders, leaders inside organizations, and what I call next generation leaders who are stepping into the C-suite to help them to become better leaders who are connected to meaningful impact and also to leading a fulfilling life, so that it's not just about working hard and not really getting the reward that comes with working hard. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing your story, Tony. That transition, I know a lot of listeners can relate. Even I can relate, right? Making that transition from, doing what you thought you want to do and you're doing it. And at some point it's sort of and we have one of our guests who was just talking about the plot twists as well. And like, sort of like,
Yes.
What is that plot twist you do in your life and such of that nature, right? So Tony just shared his plot twist. And in your experience, Tony, what are some common challenges people face when you're working with these next generation entrepreneurs, founders, and business owners? What are some common challenges that they face when trying to express themselves? And how does the core method help to address these challenges?
Yeah, they think they have to show up in a certain way because their environment dictates that they do. They think they have to be strong, or they have to be, showing up with, a certain pedigree because the environment says this is what a leader looks like. This is what, how we show up in the boardroom or how we show up in the C-suite. And so therefore, what I think the challenge is today is that we need to stop, having a persona or stereotype of what that looks like. Instead, we need to make sure people are there, leading with their true self. And I know authenticity is really overdone these days, but the idea, in terms of the term authenticity, but what it is, it's really about connecting with your own unique leadership style, your own unique way of showing up. And when you do that, people feel it. They recognize that. And they want to gravitate to people who are real, not to people who are trying to show up as something that's not them. And there's a sense of, when I get into the core methodology, I'll talk more about how this works to show up as a better leader, but also how it also makes a better workplace.
I love that. It's because building connections are just so essential in business and leadership. And especially for those who are business owners and you have a team of people, right? It's like, how do you build that core method so you show up to everyone outside the business, but also even within the business, for your team, for your workplace. So I love that. And what does CORE stand for? And how does the core method facilitate stronger connections with the people around us, right? And really allow us to tap into that authenticity and that vulnerability in a way where we feel comfortable, right? As entrepreneurs, business owners, and founders, and everyone else also around us can gravitate towards that too.
Yeah. And before I jump into the actual, saying what core is, let me give you an example of why it came to be, because I think that'll give you some context. So this methodology started with some of the group work I was doing with some teams, but also with some of the coaching clients that I had, where they were showing up to me, sharing a lot of their insights with me about what they do, outside of work and inside of work. And the more I got to know them, I got to see these amazing people. And I challenged them. I said, well, wow, you complain sometimes about how you're not able to really connect well with your employees. But I see someone who's really, dynamic and interesting and has a lot going on, but it seems like you're not sharing your full self to them. So I challenged them. I said, well, what happens if you share more? And they're like, well, I don't want to come off as bragging. It's not bragging if you're coming from a place of humility, a place that is all about opening the aperture just a little bit to show them more of who you are. Because when you show them who you are, it builds trust. And it also gives them permission to show themselves as well. And one particular example is I was working with this data scientist who was a violin playing virtuoso, and she was just amazing. Just hearing her stories and hearing how she was showing up on amazing stages, but she never shared that with anybody in her company. And so she did. And now the people in her company, they're her biggest fans, and they want to hear more about what she does outside of work. They want to know how they can hear, how they can support her in her work. Little things like that, they open the door to seeing a whole person, not just the work persona of who you are. Little movements, but also the big movements, like holding back that you're a mother of children, having children. Sometimes people hold that back because they're afraid of that being, seen as going to hold you back from opportunities at work. So we have to be careful, but we have to make sure that we're not just holding ourselves from being full in the workplace. So the core methodology.
So it's like a balance, right? It's a balance between because that is a valid concern where if someone, like the example you just gave, where someone is saying, if I do share that, I'm a violinist, they might fire me because they think I'm going to leave. Or if I do share that I'm a mother with children, they're going to think you don't do that much work. I mean, that is a very real concern in some environments. At the same time, though, it is, I think, for the employee, something to consider where maybe it's not the environment for you, and if you do share it, then maybe it's time for you to do a revamp, a rehaul, right, of where you are located. And so you can find a space and environment where you can be your full self, because otherwise you will die a slow death, but continue on the end.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on the money. You want to make sure that you are in the right environment that's going to support your whole self, not just, you holding yourself into this little place where you're saying like, I gotta keep myself in check, because if I don't keep myself in check, they're going to see who I really am. And then they're not going to like it. Well, then maybe that's not the right place for you. And that's why the focus here is also on, making sure that leaders create an environment that fosters everyone coming to work with their full selves. So what is the core methodology? It's a way to open the door for more people to bring themselves in the door. And that is, C stands for be curious. So being curious about what you're holding back, what you might be hiding that could be brought into the workplace. And this could be the things that you would be like, oh, no big deal. But what are the things that make you unique? Because we need more of that. We need the people who are holding themselves back to bring that into the workplace. From the leader to even the people who don't see themselves as leaders, within the organization, to make sure that they're sharing themselves, because we need their voices, right? O stands for open. Opening yourself to sharing who you are, and being able to also opening to receiving other people, right? We got to make sure that we create space to hearing, well, what are the things that make you interesting? What are some things you do in the weekends? What are some things about your background that you want to share, that you're open to sharing? Because those things allow us to see similarities and differences that we have with our colleagues, right? And then R is a very big one, because it's about releasing fear and relaxing into the experience of being able to see that, even though this is uncomfortable, especially for introverts who might have a challenge in really getting into this experience, because it's not comfortable to share about ourselves, but going at your own pace and allowing yourself to, share what you're comfortable sharing about who you are. So relaxing and releasing. And then the last part is expanding. And expanding is, the E stands for expand. And what you do with expand is you're expanding the circle to see who else you want to bring into the room, into the space, to see what they want to share. So when you think about it in total, it's about ensuring that you think internally, who am I and what are the things that I want to share? Then it's really the outside move, the open. Then it's letting go of the fear. And then it's expanding and allowing other people to share what's on their mind.
I love that. CORE, curiosity, openness, releasing, and then expanding, right? You I say, let go of the trash to make room for the treasure. Let go of the trash and then to make room for the treasure. So yes, love that. Thank you for sharing that, Tony. And so as an entrepreneur leader, how can one strike a balance between expressing themselves authentically, right, through core, and being curious, being open, releasing that fear, expanding, at the same time, though, adapting to different audiences or situations? Or is it that the adaptation is no adaptation, it's just being yourself fully at all times? Like what kind of would you say to that person? Like, yeah, I mean, it starts by the inner journey of understanding, okay, what am I comfortable sharing about myself, and what am I feeling like I'm not ready yet to share? Maybe there's some things about like, I haven't processed yet, maybe some past pains, things like that I don't feel like I want to process in front of everyone, and that's okay. So you go at your own pace. But in terms of how this gets brought into the room is that you have to make sure you have trust first, right? And trust is an important aspect of the workplace. If you don't have trust around the people in the room, then it's hard for you to be able to open up to them. And it starts by first going and creating having some connection with them. Start to talk to people and say, what are some things that are unique about you? And asking them questions. And when they do, then you kind of offer up the things that you're comfortable with. Now, this is not going to be something you're going to go out and do in front of like investor meetings or things like that, or in front of clients. That might be a different persona that you're going to need to create. But I'm talking about building connections with your colleagues or in relationships, your personal relationships. Sometimes we hold back
in the most important relationships we have, because we feel like, oh, that's not important, or, oh, that is not something that I want to share. But I mean, if you do, it could create a deeper connection.
I love that. So thank you for sharing that, Tony. And so I would come up a little bit on time now, but ultimately, right, emotions, and as you've heard here, listeners and followers and subscribers, if you haven't already, subscribe and follow. But emotions, right, do definitely play a significant role in decision-making and buying behavior, in people's level of trust, even you, right? And just as you also at the same time, right, use your emotions and your level of trust in making your own buying decisions and relationship decisions when it comes to who you decide to, bring into your circle and who you're, trusting to deliver their product or service. Really think about how you can use the core method: curiosity, see if I can remember this. Okay, curiosity, openness, releasing, and then expansion. How you can use that core method, Tony's core method, to move forward in showing up authentically as yourself and allowing others to do the same thing as well too, to build better relationships with customers, clients, and team members. And so, final advice, Tony, do you have for our listeners and followers here? What is what's like one to two exercises or tips that they can do and implement right away to at least start applying the principles of the core method?
Yeah. I mean, one of the first things you can do is, my tagline of my business is inspiration through honest conversations. Mm-hmm. And I think the one thing we need to do is where am I not being honest with myself? And where do I need to check in with myself around the things that I'm not really exploring? So start with some of those inner reflections, because self-reflection and self-awareness is the starting point of a better life, a better way forward in your business and life in general. So start with that, where can I ask a more honest question of myself, have inspiration through honest conversations with myself, if that makes sense.
Yes. Thank you so much, Tony. And so for those listening, check out Tony's resources. Tony, how can people reach you for more information? Where can they go to learn more about the core method and all your other leadership methods and tactics as well?
Well, the best place to find me is on my website, Inspired Purpose Partners. And the website is ipurposepartners.com.
Fantastic. So for those listening on the podcast, it is in the show description. You can find that link, ipurposepartners.com. And if you're watching us on LinkedIn, just put in the comments, ipurposepartners.com. And if you're watching us on YouTube, then you can check out the show notes below the description of the video right after you hit subscribe. And with that being said, thank you, Tony Martignetti, for joining us here today. For those listening, if you didn't already tell, this show is not only about a story, but also about lessons and action items to keep you moving forward in your business journey. We equip and empower you through education. So stay tuned each week of season 4 for our special guests that will bring you even more insights. And so if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe below for updates. Hit that red button, scroll, hit subscribe. Okay, head back on your screen if you were, cooking, head back on your screen and scroll and hit subscribe below. And then also, if you're listening to us on Spotify, then follow our podcast. If you're listening to us on Apple, then rate and review us so that more people can get these insights to help them move forward in their business journey. And remember, entrepreneurship is a marathon, but it's a marathon you don't have to run alone. Toodles!
Are you interested in partnering with Vanessa Zammi, the business defibrillator, to revive, grow, or scale your business? Then text 617-959-2203. We specialize in collaborating with storefronts, salons, and shops. That's 617-959-2203 for more details. If you're looking to shock your 10-year shop back to life, then text 617-959-2203 for more details. Thanks for joining us this week on Entrepreneurship is a Marathon. If you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or Spotify, or if you'd simply tell a friend about this episode. And if you're looking for more tips on reviving your business, make sure to visit our website, vzammi.com. That's vzamy.com. Time to revive, grow, and scale. Visit vzammi.com. That's V for Vanessa, Z for Zebra, A for animal, M as in money, Y as in yes.com. Visit bezammy.com for more details.